Okay. Culture. Who here has traveled abroad? Besides, obviously, someone from France. Where have you traveled to, Mike? Welcome back, Mike.
France, Italy, Malta.
Okay. Could you tell me some observations you made about the different cultures that you saw there?
In like Italy, people are more, I'd say, relaxed. They're not really in a rush to do things as much as
Okay.
just New York City or something. Same as in Malta, like they're happy with where they're at.
Malta, people are more content. It seemed like a bit more content. Okay. So you referenced New York City, like, hey, you know what? People aren't in a rush. Time is money. Right? Be on time. Professor Ross was on time today. Give me a pass, though, right? Half Italian, half black. But at the same time, you're like, well, in Italy, when you go to take a lunch, you take a break. There's no real time that you return back to work. It's not like you come back a specific minute that you come back, right? And obviously, there's probably a level of respect when you do return, but at the same time, it's kind of work at your own pace, eat at your own pace. Food is definitely a high cultural value item there, right? So people take their time with food, conversations, negotiations are probably not too specific, kind of vague language, right? A little bit of guesswork there as well too. Well, who else? Travel. Where have we traveled to?
I studied abroad in Spain, so I got to travel a lot. I went to Greece, Portugal, Spain, other parts of Spain, France, Italy.
What can you tell cultural differences from the U.S. and say it's Spain?
I think the main thing is like the time, like everything's very relaxed and you have like the time, the time. So everyone goes home, eats lunch with their family, and then they have the time to relax. Not necessarily just take it out, but like just like recharge. And then,
What about food? Anything specific? Like the
I
types of
noticed
food?
that they don't really eat that much of like spicy food. It's very like relaxing.
Kind of
Like we eat a lot of meat, and the fruit was more fresh. Like you can't smell the freshness, and it was like very locally.
Okay. So like, and you know, they didn't import, it seemed like they didn't import their fruits and veggies. It was, very local, right? Didn't have to come from far away. Anyone else? Anything else additional? Yes.
Well, from Mexico, so live there. I think one of the main differences is the work ethic. While you're at work, you work really hard, but then, like Alexis said, you have a time where you go home in the middle of the day or you spend time with family. The meals are very, very important. Where it's time that you spend with your family. So it's kind of something that
Hey, you say New Mexico values a high degree of work ethic. Here, we probably wish we had the easiest job, making the most amount of money, right, so that we could do less work. Americans have slight inclination, I say, for laziness. There's certain jobs we don't want to do, right? Trying to make others, we prefer others or outsiders to do for us, because we like to maximize the outcome with the least amount of work, right? In Mexico, it's like, hey, it's very proud to do hard work. Like, hard work is valued, right? Like, you're respected. It's almost a status symbol to a degree, right? All right, so getting back to culture, right? So before we get into all the marketing items, you all have taken marketing before, right? Everyone here? No one's not taking marketing books? All right, so we know the 4 P's, right? Product, place, price, promotion, We could probably know a little bit about implementation, marketing implementation, right? A little bit about segmentation, dividing things into groups, right? Groups who have similar beliefs, values, demands, behaviors. But here we're gonna kind of focus on Hofstede's cultural dimensions, so we can first understand what is value within culture, what is culture, right? What are the major items we should look for as markers when we're trying to go over to a foreign territory with a product, with a service, with something, right? Something to offer as part of a need. We kind of left off here talking about symbols, heroes, rituals, and values and expressions, right? Culture is sort of an onion. We say, hey, first things first, your values, right? Values are taught, your learned behavior, right? Up to maybe middle childhood, you have probably most of your values kind of instilled into you. They change over time, they kind of manifest or express differently over time, but they kind of stay the same for the most part. They express themselves differently as we become adults. Right, beyond that, we have rituals, right? What is a ritual that you do, that you think you do, maybe on a daily basis? Anything like the white hairs in particular that I gotta do to feel okay. Or not on a daily basis, just say for me. Anything ritualistic. Right? Yeah, right. Like, hey, part of the group, right? Part of the spiritual, religious, faith-based group. So you say, hey, prayer is important. I don't even feel right if I don't pray, right? Maybe when I wake up first in the morning before I dress. Maybe in mid-afternoon, maybe at night as well too, right? Probably say that for myself. I'm Roman Catholic, so I'm in Mass on Sunday, praying first thing in the morning before I go to sleep at night. All the rituals you can possibly think of as a Catholic, right? Or as a Christian, regardless. Anyone else? Something ritualistic? Anything that your family does ritualistic? You say that you all sort of, it's a family thing, it's a very important sort of culture. All right, well, beyond that, so we have, beyond rituals, we have heroes. People we look up to, icons, people who have changed things, people we kind of want to be like, right, within a culture. Here we have people like Michael Jordan, right? The tagline, I want to be like Mike, right? He represents success, right? He represents competitiveness. Yeah, we can get into the politicians, but that's probably not something we should do. But yeah, there's a ton of politicians, right? Throughout history. Icons. There's the public figures, right? Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the politicians, JFK's, people of that sort of ilk. And there's probably the executives too. Maybe Bill Gates. Always talking about Bill Gates. People talking about Elon Musk, right? Is he genius? Is he not? Right? He represents success, epitome. Is he a revolutionary for bringing about Tesla and changing the electric car market? Right? So we have some sort of heroes, right, within our culture. You can even go beyond that. We got Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. We get all of our DC Marvel characters as well too. People that we wish we could be with. And then symbols. What are some American symbols that sort of have a high degree of value to Americans? What are some symbols you can think of besides the U.S. flag? Yes.
Bald eagle.
Right, we say the bald eagle, right? It's no coincidence that of all the birds, they're in continental U.S. We chose the bald eagle. We chose it on purpose for powerful. It just looks powerful, right? Representation is graceful. It looks intimidating, right? So as Americans, that's what we want to represent. Hey, we're big brother, we're intimidating, right? We are about strength, power, is what we're about. Some other symbols, words, gestures. Alright? On dad's side, you know, this type of talk. Right? Everything's like with the hands. Right? On mom's side, there's different sort of things that we, you know, kind of do. Pictures or symbols. We see in mental images. Even when you see a word, it's literally a picture in your mind. Right? Objects that carry a particular meaning, recognized only by those who share a particular culture. Right? Anyone can think of something of that? An object that has some sort of particular meaning for any culture. Right, we can think of Russia for like the hammer and sickle on its flag, very revolutionary sort of meaning. Flags, status symbols, right? Golf, brands, luxury, right? Hey, how do we classify luxury? Define luxury. What is luxury? How do we know what's luxury and what's not? What do you think luxury is? What is it to you? Sure. Yeah.
It depends largely on the brand selling it and also the price point of what they're selling it for. Usually something that's luxury will be sold at a higher price than a similar product that isn't from a luxury brand.
Yeah, all right, so you're saying brand, the history of the brand, possibly, the image of the brand, how it represents itself, reputation, it's almost like a person, right? Might have a reputation of just being a certain type of person, right? Sophistication, right? Sophisticated person. And then we say price, right? Did I show you Balenciaga last class? You see Balenciaga? See it. Now let's see if Balenciaga is justified. All right, so we say, hey, you're like, man, what is luxury? What is luxury? Personally speaking, my opinion, luxury is a business you should always get into. But you probably should try to get into, right? Because it's a world of fantasy. It's made up. Most of it is made up, right? Some people could justify it like, oh, no, it's quality. It's made up. It's handmade. It's lasts a long time, yada, yada, yada. But the price never justifies the cost, right? What you're actually getting, a product. For example, right? We'll look at Balenciaga. Like, hey, I want a purse that's a coffee mug, a bag. How much will I pay for it? I'll go to Bergdorf Goodman, which is like a Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom, right? And I'll pay $6,000. It's there for a reason. It sells. All right, sister works at Neiman Marcus and Gucci had like a miniature refrigerator. I think it looked like a student. It looks like a college dorm fridge. It was $35,000 to get off Gucci. And a few people came and bought it. Right. So luxury. You like, we live in a culture that's obviously a high consuming culture, right? But we have this like incessant need to separate ourselves by prestige. Like we want to have a status symbol to represent. So we kind of take things too far. But this is true also in other countries as well too, even far East Asian cultures, or if we go to say a place like Dubai. How could they get away with this? What's the trick? What's the game? I'll put them in the charge $6,000 for a car.
They've built a brand reputation that high quality or luxury, that it's hard to get this kind of like status of what you were saying.
Yeah, you know what? They sort of, they represented themselves as, say, maybe ridiculous, right? In the fashion, even in fashion, some of it looks ridiculous. But they stood by it, right? They never swayed, they never tried to say, oh, tone it down a little bit, right? Tone it down. So if you represent yourself coming out the gate like this, and people demand it or request it at the beginning, usually you can continue this on forever. Hence Gucci, Prada, Balenciaga. But Balenciaga to me is extreme. Kanye West tried, obviously, this is more of a Balenciaga, so I think he tried to sort of mimic their strategy and then try to charge ridiculous prices, but it didn't work. Right? So they lower prices, and that makes things more affordable for people. But if you ever pay attention really to the stuff that he sells, you can reference it kind of to Balenciaga's style, the dark, everything kind of black and dark. All right. So symbols, gestures. Symbols are quickly replaced by others, right? They come and they go, right? We shift cultural changes, generational changes, different things, memes. These things quickly are changed now because of technology, right? Here's some sort of example symbols I talked about in the last class. Tiger Woods, right? Excellence, right? Rituals. Football, watching sports rituals, things that we do. Get crazy, right? When you go to the games, you go crazy. And you go your baseball, that kind of they say crazy, right? You're like, hey, we go to the game, put on all the gear, maybe paint your face, you're gonna act, you're gonna kind of let loose or whatever, right? So here in America, we have our ritual. But not only that, but with football, right? Around the world, people get pretty crazy. And then values. Meaning values is the most important thing. Value is the most important thing in business. There's a lot of business people do not get right? They don't particularly place an emphasis on values. Like absolutely, what do people value? They more so focus on just trying to get immediate sort of demand. We would say values are enduring beliefs that one mode of conduct or any state of existence is preferable to an opposite mode of conduct. Value systems, right? And here's some examples, right? Hey, some places around the world have an emphasis for cleanliness. Some places do not. Right? Something we have to consider is markers. How does that affect how we go about our business? Self-consumption in Belgium versus the Netherlands, right? High degree of difference, right, from one to another. One may have a preference for consuming bottles of other not. Being healthy, right? Here in the United States, health craze, everybody wants to be a gym rat now, right? Everybody's on some sort of new diet that they Googled or heard about, right? Something, everybody's cutting carbs or eating more protein or not eating meat at all. Right? Other countries care less. They don't care about that. They care about eating the best tasting food possible. That's it. Right? Antibiotic consumption in Spain versus Sweden is kind of another example. Values are prioritized. Right? Everything in life is usually hierarchical. Right? country, around the world. There's an emphasis on things that are very salient and important. And we should also have an emphasis on that too. Example here is in harmony in East Asia versus individual happiness in the US. Is that true? You find it to be true? We focus on individual happiness here. Is your personal happiness very important to you over, say, your family's happiness? Not for you. Okay, is anyone? Long time. Right, but here we live in an individualistic society, a me culture. Right, it is about us, for the most part. Here, it is about us. Maybe we feel that if we're not successful, we can't make anybody successful. Right, so we're like, hey, you know, I'll be successful, therefore maybe I can carry the load for others. But maybe not. So maybe we just really want to be successful on our own. All right, now we get into the cultural dimensions, right? Which we're going to look at 5 independent dimensions of culture, right? Hofstede, Eric Hofstede was probably heard about him in other classes, sociologist, researcher. He came up with these cultural dimensions. Him and Abraham Maslow, you know, very popular classes, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? How people want based on where they are in life, right? And how they desire to get to the top of the pyramid at some point. Here we're talking about dimensions of culture. Right? So the first one is power distance. What do you think that means? Power distance. Distance of power. What's that kind of come off to? In terms of culture. Alright, so distance of power, like, hey, how closely is the power distributed in this culture? Is it like a king up here, a bunch of subjects? Is it like a lot of people who have a say-so and have, you know, good strength of power? Is it a democracy? We're like, hey, we'll vote you out, you know. Right? We maybe have power to some degree. Or is it like, no, that's the boss. Everybody listens to El Jefe. Right? The boss is the boss. Don't you question the boss. Question the boss. Right? Some societies have that mentality, right? And some societies may have one where power is kind of closely disseminated. Everyone has some sort of good distribution power. Individualism is talking about that a minute ago, right? How personalized is the country in terms of its values? Is the group more important than the individual? Right? Mental health is here. It's huge in the United States. I'm a therapist myself. So, right, I'm talking to people all the time to work with them in. But I'm also an international therapist. So when I talk to people in South Africa, I'm literally might be talking to 15 people. I might be talking to a family and trying to sort out the issues within the group. Right? Because the group has hierarchy, respect, right? Communication, who listens to whom, what is your role in this group? How important is your role? You're not doing what you're supposed to do. Right? Communication. Oh, you wanted to marry someone outside the group. Look what you did to us. Shaking up. Right? All these different things. Hey, you're not speaking our languages. So, become an Americanized. Right? You're shaking up the group. The group's more important to you. You're not creating harmony. You're making things disharmonious. Right? So that would say collectivists. So, you know, but here in US, you're like, yeah, I have a problem. We all have a problem as individuals. You're like, what's your problem? Like, it's a me problem. Like, sure, it's not a group problem, social problem. Your family, your coworkers, friends. Like, no, it's a me problem. Right? wrong with you, you're not doing what you gotta do. That's what's wrong. But when I'm depressed, like, what's depression? Like, what are you talking about? You're depressed because you're not doing what you're supposed to do for us. That's why you're depressed. And then we come back here, we're like, no, you're depressed because you're not being as great, as awesome, as an individual as you want to be. But I'm not hitting my marks. I'm not meeting my expectations. You want to be the most awesome individual possible. Right, totally different mindset, right? So, once again, how do you market to that? How do you market to group mentality, right? Versus an individual. It's kind of easy to market to an individual mentality, right? But to a group mentality, hard. Trying to win over the hearts of the collective sort of thing. Uncertainty avoidance. Risk, right? Uncertainty avoidance. How risky is a culture? Hey, invest in buy this index fund, buy this Tesla stocks. Sure about that. And I lose all my money. Stocks, right? Yeah, of course, everybody, right? I can't do that, right? Some cultures are not willing to take on a risk, even if the risk has been proven to be very, very low. Right? Other cultures, yeah, like throw it all on number 7. Throw it all. Right? We can win big. Go big, go home. Right? Some cultures, we have that mentality here in the West. Go big or go home. Right? Take on the risk because the risk has the greatest reward. Masculinity. Masculinity is like the importance of how important sort of masculine characteristics is in the culture, right? Which means kind of like assertiveness, competition, competitiveness, right? Things that are kind of typically masculine oriented. Versus like, hey, maybe the opposite. Maybe a very feminist culture. Like, hey, here we use the importance of nurturing. Right? Hey, my husband does the dishes. Right? Like, yeah, all of our husbands do dishes. Why? Because it's about nurturing each other. It's not an emphasis on a masculine sort of stereotype. It's about everyone helping each other in some way. Nurture, right? Femininity. And then long-term orientation. Time horizon, right? Here you probably are planning how far out? Like if you could say, hey man, I got a plan, and I'm really, or you could say, hey, I'm thinking about the next X amount of years. How many years is that X? Mike? How far out are you thinking?
4 years.
4. Anyone else thinking longer than that? Beyond 4 years. Right? Maybe because you're in college. Right? But maybe, say for a person like myself, you think about retirement. Right? You're thinking about, oh man, my kids. So I got 2 small kids. I'm thinking about college already for them. So I'm probably thinking about the next 15, 20 years. Right? Will they work for me? Which college they'll go to? Setting them up to have all these things, right? So that their life would be essentially better than mine as a child of poverty. So long-term orientation. Here, people in America, stay very long with their companies if it's a good job. They're here for 30, 35 years, not so much in other places, which means they have a shorter sort of orientation of time. They're worried about tomorrow. Right? Especially if it's a place where it's maybe lesser socioeconomic different marketing tactics too. Can't really sell 30-year mortgages here in the US. I think it's a coincidence that the mortgage is on average 30 years. Who came up with that? Right? I think that your retirement is usually around, hopefully around the same time you might pay off that house. Right? It's all kind of set up in a system here. We have long-term orientation. Right? The system is set up for you to get a job, work at 35 years, pay off a mortgage at 30, retire, move to Florida, and die. That's just kind of most of how the system is set up. All right, so high score and low score power distance. And we say the degree to which the less powerful members of society expect there to be differences in the level of power. High score, which means there's an expectation for some individuals have large power than others, such as caste system. Low score, all people should have equal rights. Right? Examples: Scandinavian or Germanic countries, more democratic too. In some places, you know, like being a professor is like a big deal, right? Especially in Latin America. Huge respect, like the educators, professors, that's the highest tier thinking, right? Maybe here not so much. Might not hear too much about that. But maybe so too. In America, we also have a high degree of respect. But here we see in the Japanese classroom, like it's about respect is always thought of. You're coming in, you're bowing in class. Yeah. Come on. Anybody bow when you walk in? No. Right? So you're like, hey, this is important. Classroom is still about orderliness. Classroom is about the history of Japan. Bring that history wherever you go. You represent that country. Here we can care less. People say screw America. Screw the president, screw America, screw the flag, spit on it, step on it. Probably not happening. Right? But it goes to show you there's a difference when you have these sort of freedoms or the power distance. Burn up the flag here. No one's coming to take you to jail and beat you up. Burn up the flag there. Might go to jail and get beat up too. That means that there's some authority there. There is some rules to follow in how things are set up. Here's some things that Hofstede surveyed for power distance. Non-managerial employees' perceptions that employees are afraid to disagree with their managers. That's one of the items that came out of this research, right, that he surveyed. Subordinates' perception that their boss tends to take decisions in an autocratic or persuasive way. All right, so we're talking about, do you have the ability to speak up for yourself as a subordinate? Right? Do you have any rights at all? Are you completely afraid that you'll be fired? What kind of work environment is that? Right? Subordinates' preference for anything but a consultative style of decision making in their boss. And here we're just given a map of to show the different power distances. Right, so we kind of see that the darker colors is low power distance. All right, so here's some other things too, some relationships between power distance and income inequality, income per capita. These are some things we could just get itemized to look at, and we can get a pretty good assessment on the power distance. We look at income inequality, income per capita, the GDP, latitude, population size, and this all reference has a relationship to global branding, luxury products, #1 brands, market leaders. Which means that there's a high degree of power distance right? Luxury brands kind of thrive in those areas, because only a few people can afford it, right? So that status symbol means a lot. Here, come on, who has an iPhone? I'll get it, close everybody, right? Somebody might have some Android. But that's a luxury item, right? It's a luxury item. We're very privileged. We are the wealthiest people on the planet. Compared, if you go really travel around the world, like, even if you're the poorest person in the United States is wealthy, for about 98% of the rest of the world, right? With a few exceptions there, some countries that have a ton of money, right? So you gotta think about that. Luxury products is not really that special. Well, you probably all bet on something. I don't know what it is. MacBook, phone, maybe some shoes or something, right? I'll kind of skip through some of this since we've already talked about it. Here, uncertainty avoidance. Remember we say, hey, some countries don't like risk. And risk is fear, right? Driven by fear. So on the next slide, they show like some East Asian countries, right? We're like, oh man, people wear masks everywhere. Why wear masks everywhere? Right? I don't want to take the risk. Like we even see that from Asians here in the United States. Like, you know, wow, I'm on the bus and I see a bunch of people with masks, or I'm on the train or something like that, right? The culture is risk averse. So we carry our culture with us even while we're here in the U.S., right? Depending on how long we live in. So some people don't like to take the risk even of potentially getting sick. None of us have masks on, even though it's the winter time and there's a lot of colds going around, right? Kind of like whatever, I'll be okay. Uncertainty avoidance. Some items include company rules should not be broken. Once again, we say risk, fear, right? Employees' intention to continue with the company, and how often do you feel nervous or tense at work? And then masculinity versus femininity, right? We say traditionally male or female values, competitiveness, assertiveness, ambition, right? Accumulation of wealth and material possessions. Right? Example given, Japan, US, and the UK. Pretty modern. No coincidence, right? Those are some of the largest car manufacturing countries in the world as well too. We love our vehicles, we love our Lexus, Toyota, Hondas, Acuras. Right? I would say probably throw Germany on there as well too. Right? And then femininity. Sweden and Norway as an example. People value relationships, friendly atmosphere, security of employment, quality of life. Right? It transitions even to their government. Right? You're like, oh, universal health care. Right? Some of the Scandinavian countries. We don't have that. Health care is very expensive. It may be free higher education, free school, right? Free college. We don't have that too. Have that as well too, because somebody got to pay for it when it's taxes. We don't want to pay that extra. You're like, it doesn't make sense because we all got to pay this high Korean education, right? But the tax is free, but anyway, who's going to pay for it? I don't know. You don't want to pay for it. Right? So this is also something that comes out of democracies, as opposed to, I would say, more kind of socialist countries. And then long versus short-term orientation, right? The time horizon. Future versus the past and present, right? Thrift. People who are thrifty. People who bargain, right? So you go into these countries and marketing is about the bargaining process. The most important thing may be negotiations and a deal, right? Hence the word deal. The high degree of emphasis is on the deal. People are concerned about every single penny. Like, why are you like that, right? Well, it's about thriftiness, perseverance, sense of shame, status importance, our value more. Some examples gratifications, rapid solutions, such as the United States, like their short-term gratifications. And it's changed. If you go work, I think at Portillo's, they have it now where you get paid daily if you want to. You can cash out your paycheck every day. Whoa, what's up with that? Like, I don't know, you got young people here, they want to go on Temu and Shein and buy them new jackets and shoes. And their shit. Right? But that type of job, like, well, that's not a long-term horizon. Right? Why would you pay that? Save that. Right? So you're like, hey, short-term gratifications, right? It's not long-term perspective. Rapid solutions, we have a quote here. I'm gonna wait too much. There are some limitations, right? Some of the data, the timeliness of the data for Hofstede's, but we'll come back to that later. And then we got Schwartz, right? Schwartz is based on his human values, right? A little bit different, kind of similar, a little bit different, but just speaking on what people value with different items. Schwartz says that there's 7 types of values. One is conservative, right? Maintenance of the status quo, the propriety and avoidance of actions, value, security, conformity, tradition. Right? The big sort of, with the microcosm of the planet, with a diverse group of people here in the U.S., all religions, faith backgrounds, ethnic groups. Hence, we have probably the most political issues, right? And so we're like, hey, are we conservative, patriotic? Are we socially progressive now? We want to move the needle to change things? Do we want to keep the values that we had from our forefathers? Do we want to change because the world has changed? Like, constant battle, right? Constant battle. Who's going to win out? But we see a lot of places around the world focus on being conservative. Why? Because change is a lot of work. Change is new and novel. Human beings don't like change, right? We like predictability. It feels very comfortable to know what to expect. You know what to expect to come, right? Every day in the morning, you kind of know what to expect. Makes your life very easy. Maybe drive the same route, go to the same place, get you some coffee or something to eat, right? Transfers over to even different sort of ethnic groups. Like what you know, right? The unknown is anxiety to people. You have to try to figure out. So Schwartz says there's a high degree for people to one already know, to conserve, to keep what's already there. If it's work, let's not change it, right? Because change is a risk. Like, we know it worked. Come up with new ideas and new stuff. I don't know. And then intellectual and effective autonomy. Individuals are viewed as autonomous, entitled to pursue their own interests, value, enjoying life, curiosity, creativity. Which means that at this point in time in the world, we can make the observations to say that the internet, social media, media in general, really is making everyone autonomous. The prior countries were very conservative and like, no, this is the music we listen to here, this is our music, this is how we dress, this is what we do. Quickly see that TikTok is changing all. Younger generations are listening to drill music in China, right? Or in Korea, or whatever, right? And you're like, man, it's shaking up our beliefs and all the things that we've kind of conserved here. Things are changing very quickly. People do enjoy autonomy, right? To be a self, to be an individual. Things are, and even with mental health, right? Even though I say like, hey, there's still collectivism and do therapy with groups, but even individuals in those groups, the issue is that the younger people are becoming individuals. And older people who are used to the social groups, they're struggling. Right? They're struggling with the younger people. Like, man, no, I want to be a great I wanna continue doing what you guys do. Hierarchy, the importance of power, wealth and authority, and respect facing people with these characteristics. Right? Contrary to our belief, we do like authority here in the US. We do like the rules. Right? Once again, it kind of correlates to predictability and security. It correlates to that first thing with conservatism. Right? We like the police out there. We like red lights and green lights. We like people not being able to steal. Right? So we like the hierarchy. And then mastery, active mastery of the social environment through self-assertion, value, ambition, and success. We also see this as well too, like the value in education is becoming even more popular. Like you would think at the cost of college that people would just stop going. Right? You're like, come on, let's go. Let's just all try. Not true. Right? People still show up in droves and go. We value that ambition, that's success, right? We value this idea to become a master of something at some point of our lives. Something where we feel confident in, that makes us feel whole and successful. We value success. Egalitarian commitment, voluntary promotion of others' welfare, social justice, equality, and freedom. Right? Highly valued. You would think that would be the case. But guess what? When I started making money with my for-profit, the next thing I did was start a not-for-profit. At the end of the day, I still value helping people. And to be honest, it's more, it made me feel better. It had more enduring long-term effects on how I felt than, oh my God, I can buy a new car, okay, buy a Ferrari or something. So people do appreciate that. Go, you go on social media, people record themselves volunteering, helping. Hey, look at this homeless guy, $10, make sure you record it. Right? We value that. Even if sometimes it's in the wrong and a distasteful sort of way. But we do value social justice and other people's well-being. Harmony. Harmony with, by opposition to domination of the nature, protection of the environment. We do value that as well too. Everyone values that. Because you have to breathe the air. Right? You can't escape it if the society is, the air quality is poor, the water quality is poor, it affects poor areas. Right? So there's a high degree of human value there too. And then high and low context, right? This is kind of about communication, right? High context, low context cultures. Here, high context, meaning a lot is suggested. High context means the importance of nonverbal elements. Anyone here feel that they come from a high context culture? Meaning that when the individuals communicate, they're not very detailed. Everything is kind of suggested. Like you should already kind of know, from the body language, you don't need that much verbiage used. Or anyone here come from low context? We like, no, we like details. Tell me exactly when. Send me an email, time, date. I want to know exactly when. Everything's intentional, right? Everything is direct. A lot of information that's listed there. Either or. What do you feel which culture you belong to? Low or high? In France, low or high? So they like give me an example. When it's like about maybe meeting up or doing something, is like everything very detailed, or some things are kind of suggested or even assumed? not a huge emphasis on it. Things are very open, right? We'll let it go as it goes. We'll see what happens, right? But here in the US, hey, 9:30 is 9:30. Send me the email, Dr. Ross, very explicit stuff. This is exactly what the issue is or something, right? Nothing is left open to interpretation. If you didn't say it, you didn't say it, right? You'll be like, oh, you know, I failed my mind reading class or something, right? I don't understand. So high context and low context. We'll see that too as we go on when we talk about like different ads. We'll look at some global advertisements. Pharmaceutical drug consumption. Now, I'll tell you, this first chapter is a little bit dry, right? The second chapter, kind of pushes into the mind. But here, I just want us to really get like the principles of the major sort of items that we should be focusing on when we do our like group projects and things like that. But we should be discussing, power, distance, masculinity, assertive avoidance, things like that. But here's an example for pharmaceutical drug consumption, right? Low subjective health, uncertainty avoidance, individualism, individual well-being, seek doctor consultation, masculinity, be strong, right? Some cultures you're like, hey, we don't really go to the doctor like that, right? Your mind can heal you. Be strong. You're being weak, that's why you're sick, right? And here in America, like, you sneeze twice and somebody's like, oh, you should go to urgent care, right? You sure you're okay? Like, yeah, I just coughed like once, right? Hence why we buy so many drugs, right? Off the charts. I had my drugs this morning, first thing in the morning, my favorite drug. I went to my drug dealer, and I said, give me a grande coffee, right? Extra cream, extra sugar, right? I want my caffeine, I want my drugs. And then long-term orientation, do sport and eat healthy, right? So here in the US, like, hey, long-term, if you work out moderately and you eat healthy, you should have a long life. Other places, not so much. You said there's no emphasis on that, right? It's all about us being happy today. All right, we'll end off at this part. Maybe I'll wrap this up to you on Tuesday. I'll wrap that this last part up on Tuesday and against chapter 2. So yeah, on Tuesday, be prepared to bring something to talk about. I said one PowerPoint slide is fine, a couple bullet points, just something very brief, right? And then we return to the slide. But the reason for that is Mike's taking speech communication with me, so it's like give everybody an opportunity to talk. Right? So it's a good thing. And to keep it interesting to talk about what's going on in the world of global marketing. Yeah, check Blackboard for any announcements that I'll put up maybe over the weekend. Make sure you get your assignments in. And that's it. I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great day, everyone.